Hello, this is case number 172-41242. Patient had a history of lymphoma. This was a retest that we did. I believe this is test number 3. To get kind of a rundown, biofeedback stress factors are basically how the body interacts with its environment, and it can cause dis-ease. So it can change the frequency, or change the performance of cells, change issues in the body that can cause disease. How does it do that? Well, the dis-ease creates certain biochemicals, plus DNA gives us lymphoma, which is the disease. And so if we look at test number 3 here, there was a few things that came up. The top 2, I look at the abnormals, and there was 14 on the abnormal list, but really there was 4. But the 2 that we went into more detail about was environmental toxins and also fossil fuels. If we open those in the drop down, we can see cigarette smoke, gasoline, isopropyl alcohol, paint fumes, actually silicone, styrene, and turpentine, which are also related to paints and things like that. The fossil fuels was interesting: coal and exhaust fumes, and also fuel-grade alcohol. So those are exposures in environmental toxins. So those are going to be in smog. We live close to Chicago, those places that have high environmental contamination in the air, potentially. Suburbia, a lot of cars, things like that. Certainly the paint fumes, cigarette smoke, those can be more within the household, especially paints. But this goes all the way back from the time they were puppies, so you don't necessarily smoke in the house, may not recently painted in the house, but the body's picking up data that causes disease. And so we go all the way back in history to sort out, okay, what created the lymphoma in the first place? Because this is the presentation, this is what we see, this is what we treat in terms of the disease itself, but also we want to know what was the history of the roadmap, and if we make those corrections with the SRT drops, then can we form our own changes in biochemistry, which are more chemotherapeutic, more natural, or biochemotherapy, if you will, to help this patient particularly clear up the lymphoma. So we're using treatments over here, natural treatments right now, but at the same time, if we can create an environment in which cancer can't live, you're going to start to see regression. And this is natural, more sustainable regression. So take a look at this test. Formulate any potential questions, shoot me an email on that. And the 5 drops a day, this go really 3 to 4 weeks on this, and then follow up again. We've got several to do. What we're looking for is, when are we seeing the results? When does the body make the transition? And I'd like to be able to give you a crystal ball and say, yeah, that would be very, very quickly. Unfortunately, it can't, because the body takes its own time. Each individual takes their own time in terms of the response and when we get the positive feedback when they make that final recovery. So I don't have an answer for that, but the good news is that we're at least stable. We still have the swollen lymph nodes, but at the same time, we're stable, and that's most important for survivability, is that can we go on with our day-to-day activities, our normal rudiments, and still be very, very functional during this process of recovery, and that's what is most important. A lot of patients are on, move over to chemotherapy, which does put the disease in remission, but it also puts the body into peril as well, because we're creating more toxicity, more imbalance and stress, which over time, unfortunately, that cancer, we may put it in temporary remission with chemotherapy, but unfortunately over time it can come back out of remission, and those cancer cells are much more resistant to treatments. So if we can formulate something that's more natural, it's way more sustainable. So thank you very much for allowing me to do this video. I'm going to have this uploaded to YouTube. You'll see it with this case number on it, so when you upload, it'll be private, and then no one else will have access to that. Thanks so much.